So today on the red couch, I have a fascinating Caribbean woman, and I've long hoped for the opportunity to interview her. It's taken me quite a while to be able to get the opportunity to interview this lady. So welcome to the red couch, Jennifer Hosten. Finally, I get to chat with you.
Thank you very much, Vic. It's a pleasure to be here, and it's a pleasure to see you after so many years.
Indeed, indeed. I want to take you now, and I wouldn't spend a lot of time on the Miss World show, but I would like to hear your take on that. What made you enter the competition? You were in the travel business at the time, I believe. You were working for an airline as an air hostess,
Yes.
and you were attracted to the Miss World show. I mean, as a woman of color, going into a competition knowing that no woman of color has ever won this competition, was that intimidating in any way?
Well, to be very honest with you, I didn't realize at the time that I was the only person of color that would have won. Quite honestly, I hadn't thought much about Miss World. It was an idea that came to me when I was working on a BWI flight, and Miss Guyana came on the flight, and she was on her way to the Miss World contest. And they asked me to take a picture with her. But even at that point, I wasn't thinking of myself. But about 2 weeks later, I visited my parents. It was Easter holidays. I went over because I was based in Trinidad. Went over to Grenada and bumped into Gary Protein, whose mother was heading up the tourist board, and he was helping her put together the Miss Grenada contest. And he asked me if I would consider it. And I said to him, well, I didn't think that I was eligible because I was not living in Grenada at the time. And he said, of course you're eligible. And his mother subsequently followed up with me. And as a bit of a lark, and because I'm very often up for a challenge, I took advantage of that opportunity to enter the Miss Grenada contest, which I won. And the prize was to go on to the Miss World contest. But part of my motivation, well, was, the chance to represent Grenada, of course, but also, to be quite honest, to make a little money, because I thought at the time maybe there would be a money prize. As it turned out, I ended up spending all of that money getting myself ready for the Miss World contest.
Take me back briefly to that night, and when you heard that announcement, you heard your name called.
You can imagine that we were all anxious, waiting to. At that point, of course, I had reached the finals, and that in itself would have been very acceptable as far as I was concerned. And then finally to hear my name announced, I was surprised and, of course, very honored. So my first reaction was surprise, and then suddenly realizing, and then subsequently realizing that I had been the first obvious woman of color to win Miss World was an honor and something that I took then on as a responsibility, because I could see that it then gave me a platform and a way of representing other women and other people of color and the Caribbean. What I find so strange is that I have done so many other things in my life, and yet the Miss World contest is the thing that keeps coming back. And a movie was made about 1970 and the Miss World contest, and I wrote a book, and my book was an inspiration for the movie to some extent.
What is the name of the movie and the name of your book for our viewers?
The name of the book is Miss World 1970, and it has the same cover as the poster of the movie. because the book and the movie were meant to go to, to complement each other. The movie's name is Misbehavior. And of course, I tell people it wasn't me misbehaving. It was the women's movement.
I really would like to take you back and tell me what it was like. What was it like for a young woman growing up in Grenada in the time when you were a teenager and a young person?
Well, growing up in Grenada was quite special because one felt as if the community was a family, an extended family. Everybody took an interest in what the children did. I remember the fun that we had as children. We didn't have all the technology that the kids have today. We didn't even have a television until I was a grown girl. But we made our own fun. We saw our friends and family in the other islands. I used to have visits with my cousins from Barbados and from family in Trinidad as well. So many things have happened over the years, and lots of changes. But what should we say? One would like to think that many of the changes are for the better, but we know that some of them we think of rather nostalgically, because I think we have lost some things in spite of the fact that we may have grown in other areas.
I want to take you though, because you did mention the things that you've done, all of the other stuff. And I know that you did your university education. I believe you may have had, is it a double? You did two different degrees in, yeah. So tell us a little bit about your transitioning now out of that and your years as a diplomat, your years in academia. That share with us a little bit of that, Jennifer Hosten.
I went to live in Canada. And then I went back to university. I got married shortly after. I married a Canadian and lived in Ottawa and started a family. And it wasn't long after that I was approached by Grenada to represent them, first at the United Nations in New York. And I didn't accept that position because it would have meant moving the whole family to live in the United States and New York in particular. Then a position came up in Canada and they approached me again. And I said yes. And so I took on the job as of Grenada's High Commissioner, which is ambassador. And just over a year of working with the Gary government was the one that appointed me. There was a revolution. So then I found myself meeting with the government in exile. And this is all described in my book.
You didn't tell me much about your broadcasting career, though. A little bit about that.
Well, I started off at WIBS, which was the Windward Islands Broadcasting Service. And after getting into it, they thought that I had some promise, I guess. They wanted me to get further training because they felt that I could even do the job better. So they gave me the opportunity to go to the BBC for training. And so I went off to London. And after being trained as a broadcaster, I had experience. Then I was seconded to the Caribbean Broadcasting Service at the BBC. And they did Calling the Caribbean, which is an afternoon show, came on every afternoon. Around 5 o'clock.
Of all of the careers that you've had, and you've had quite a few, which one stands out for you? Which would you say? Is there a favorite, or was it just that at that period of your life you enjoyed exactly what you were doing at that juncture? What was that like?
Well, I would have to say that broadcasting has always been a love of mine. I've always felt, quite frankly, I've been disappointed that I didn't do more in that area, in that field over the years. but it wasn't, it, you know, just life just took me other places and I did other things. It's not that I wanted to do it and didn't have the chance to do it. But the other thing as well is that I think your station sounds like the answer.
Jennifer Hosten, thank you so much. It has been, you have no idea how immense a pleasure this has been for me to have this conversation with you on the red couch.
Thank you, Vic. It's been entirely my pleasure. Thank you.